The Laver Cup has always been more than just tennis. Its spectacle, its drama, and its passion on full display. But in 2025, fans witnessed something they never expected, a shocking confrontation between two of the game's biggest names, Carlos Alcaraz and Taylor Fritz. What happened on that court has set the tennis world buzzing, and today we're breaking down the drama that unfolded, step by step. It all started in Berlin, the chosen venue for this year's Laver Cup. The arena was packed, and the atmosphere was electric. Team Europe, led by Carlos Alcaraz, entered the tournament as favorites, with Alcaraz carrying the weight of being the reigning world number one. On the other side, Team World was ready for the fight, and Taylor Fritz, the American powerhouse, had been chosen as their frontline warrior. From the very beginning, this matchup promised fireworks. Nobody, however, predicted just how explosive things would become. When Alcaraz and Fritz finally walked onto the court for their singles showdown, the tension was already visible. Alcaraz, calm but fierce, gave his trademark grin as he bounced on his toes, while Fritz carried the determined look of a man who wanted to make a statement. The crowd sensed it. This was not just another match. It was pride, power, and prestige colliding. The first set began with Alcaraz playing his usual brand of electrifying tennis. He was sprinting across the baseline, ripping forehand winners, and dropping impossible shots that sent the crowd into roars. Fritz, though, wasn't intimidated. He answered with booming serves, crushing forehands, and a refusal to be pushed around. Point by point, the match grew hotter, and by the time it reached 5-5, you could cut the tension with a knife, but then came the spark. On a crucial deuce point, Alcaraz chased down a wide shot and sent a passing winner down the line. The chair umpire called it in, but Fritz immediately exploded in protest. He insisted the ball had clipped the line on the wrong side and should have been out. Hawkeye was checked, and to Fritz's horror, it confirmed the call in favor of Alcaraz. The Spaniard pumped his fist and shouted, "Vamos," but Fritz wasn't having it. He walked across the net, pointing at Alcaraz and accusing him of deliberately celebrating a lucky call. Alcaraz, visibly stunned, raised his hands and shook his head. "That's tennis, man." "The ball was in," he replied. But Fritz wasn't satisfied. He got in Alcaraz's face, saying that the Spaniard was being disrespectful. The crowd gasped as two of the sport stars stood toe-to-toe, neither backing down. Teammates from both benches leapt up, Stefanos Tsitsipas rushing over to pull Alcaraz away while Francis Tiafoe stepped in to calm Fritz down. It was the kind of confrontation rarely seen in tennis, a sport known more for silent intensity than outright clashes. The umpire issued warnings to both players, urging them to cool down, but the damage was done. The match had crossed from competitive into personal. Fans could feel it. This wasn't just about winning points anymore. It was about pride, respect, and who would come out on top in a battle of wills. The second set became even more fiery. Every time Alcaraz hit a winner, his "vamos" seemed louder, almost directed at Fritz. And every time Fritz slammed down a big serve, his fist pumps were more aggressive, his stare fixed across the net. At one point, after Fritz won a long rally, he mimicked Alcaraz's trademark drop shot celebration, mocking the Spaniard. The crowd booed, but Fritz didn't care. He was locked in. Then came the boiling point. At 4-4 in the second set, Alcaraz attempted another spectacular passing shot. Fritz lunged, volleyed, and the point ended in his favor. As he walked back to the baseline, Fritz shouted, "Not today, kid," loud enough for the cameras and crowd to hear. Alcaraz immediately turned, shaking his head, clearly irritated. He tapped his temple, as if to say, "Think, play smart," but Fritz interpreted it as mockery. He stormed toward the net, and for the second time that night, both men exchanged heated words. The stadium erupted in shock. The umpire again had to intervene, threatening point penalties if the verbal sparring continued. Team Europe captain Bjorn Borg and Team World captain John McEnroe both stood on the sidelines, trying to restore order. McEnroe, famous himself for fiery confrontations, could be heard saying, "Let him play, but keep it cool," while Borg just shook his head, visibly disappointed. Despite the chaos, the match pressed on. In the end, Alcaraz edged Fritz in a thrilling tiebreak, sealing victory for Team Europe in that clash. But the win almost felt secondary. What everyone remembered was the confrontation, the finger-pointing, the face-to-face tension, and a rare glimpse of raw emotion spilling over in professional tennis. After the match, the press conference was just as explosive. Reporters immediately asked both players about the confrontation. Fritz didn't hold back. He said, "I felt disrespected out there. He was over-celebrating, mocking me, and I'm not going to just stand there and let that slide." Alcaraz, however, pushed back. "I respect every opponent, but I'm passionate. I fight for every point. If that looks like disrespect to him, that's his problem, not mine." The headlines the next morning were brutal. Alcaraz and Fritz clash at Laver Cup, tempers boil over in Berlin, confrontation shocks tennis world. Social media went wild with clips of the heated exchanges, fans debating who was in the wrong. Some said Alcaraz was simply playing with emotion, as he always does, and Fritz overreacted. Others argued that Fritz had every right to defend his pride against what he perceived as taunting. Former players weighed in too. Andy Roddick tweeted, "Passion is great, but respect is greater. Hope both guys learn from this." Martina Navratilova commented that while the drama was unusual, it showed how much the Laver Cup meant to the players. And of course, John McEnroe, who had front-row seats as Team World Captain, called it good for the sport because it showed the fire burning in the next generation. The confrontation between Alcaraz and Fritz may have been shocking, but it also underscored something important: tennis is evolving. The new generation isn't afraid to wear their emotions on their sleeves, to challenge boundaries, and to bring raw intensity to the court. And while some fans were unsettled, others found it thrilling, a break from the polite traditions of the past. As the dust settled, both players eventually cooled down. Reports later suggested that Fritz and Alcaraz privately spoke and shook hands after the tournament ended, though neither side gave details. But one thing was certain: their rivalry had been ignited. Fans now eagerly anticipate their next meeting, wondering if sparks will fly again. In many ways, this confrontation might go down as a defining moment of the 2025 Laver Cup. It wasn't just about points and sets, it was about personality, emotion, and the clash of two champions who refused to back down. And for the fans, it served up a spectacle they won't soon forget. So, was it disrespect, or just passion spilling over? Was Fritz too sensitive, or was Alcaraz pushing the boundaries of sportsmanship? One thing is clear: the Laver Cup 2025 gave us more than just tennis. It gave us drama, controversy, and a confrontation that will be replayed for years to come. And as the lights dimmed in Berlin and fans filed out of the arena, everyone knew they had witnessed history. A rivalry had been born, and the tennis world would never look at Carlos Alcaraz and Taylor Fritz the same way again.